Hello, IB English students, and welcome to the second video for Q2, Week 9, Day 1. This is the video that goes over the goal setting activity, the writing goal setting activity. If you haven't watched the first video, please watch that one first and then watch this one. I'm going to guide you through the process. There's going to be some parts of this that you're just going to skip because it was designed to be done in a small group setting, and if you're absent from class, you don't have the luxury of doing it that way. So first, what you'll need to do is to open your high-level essay in one tab, and then open the first high-level essay submission rubric in another tab or a window. That was, I think it's under Week 7, Day 2. It's that PDF that I asked you to turn in from before. You're going to open that up, and if you have to unsubmit it so you can edit it, go ahead and do that. You don't have to worry about the turning on the camera or the mic, because we're not doing this live. So in total, you should have three things open. There's your high-level essay in one tab. In another window or another tab, you're going to want the high-level essay submission rubric open. And then in a third tab, or window, you're going to want to have today's assignment, the goal setting activity, open. Okay, so first let's talk about understanding the rubric. Right. This is the back page of the rubric, which I'll go over some more in detail in a minute. But basically, this document is designed to help you tally the different types of errors that your essay contains. So, for example, if I went through my essay and it turned out that I had awkward phrasing, there's a box here for you to kind of like tick off every single time, and then you can kind of say like, well, I had, let's say, 6 awkward phrases here, but then when it came to word choice, I only had 2 of them. So as far as prioritizing is concerned, I should focus on fixing my awkward phrases and then focus on my word choice errors. Okay. All of the criterion B, C, this should say A, B, and C. Hold on. Okay, there we go. All of the criterion A, B, and C errors are labeled with a brief note to help you understand what the specific error in that criterion error was. So for example, if you had a criterion B error, either in parentheses afterwards or somewhere underneath it, I wrote down, clarity of quote was unclear, or explanation error, etc. We will have a chance to discuss what all of these errors look like and how to fix them later, time permitting. That's partly what the other part of this week's assignment is designed to help you with as well. But for now, what you're going to do is use this video to help you collect data and establish your personal writing goals. So this is the old rubric. And for criterion A, B, C, and D, they had different weights to them, right? It used to be that criterion A was only out of 2 points, B was only out of 8, C and D were then out of 5 for a total of 20 points. The new rubric, as of the 2020-2021 school year, has all 4 of the criterion A, B, C, and D out of 5 points. And then there's a little descriptor next to each of them to tell you exactly what you need to do in order to score what, or how to get those points. So 4 categories, 5 points each. Again, it's still out of 20 points. So before we set things up, right, you're going to need to kind of do a little data collection. So starting at the top of your higher level essay document, you're going to click on the comments that I made so that you can kind of look at each one, right, and go and cycle through them and see what it is I'm pointing out. Then on the rubric that you have up in that PDF, you're going to put a red X next to the box that corresponds to the error that you see there on your tally sheet. So to show you what this looks like, right? If you take a look at this student's essay, right? What they would do, give me 1 second. What they would do is they would click on this first box to let them know, like, well, where is that note coming from, right? And it's coming from this part here. So these two are connected. So it says criterion A error. So then on the PDF, right, you would put an X under criterion A. There isn't, in this old rubric, there isn't a specific box for it, so you would just put an X there, okay? For the next item, it says AWK, right? That stands for awkward phrasing. So the student would put an X there as well. AE/X, right? AE stands for article errors, right? So you would put an X there. If you have a note in your material that says, an abbreviation and then /X, that's my way of letting you know that to fix the issue, you can simply delete it. And that would completely deal with the issue itself. And then the last one down here that this student has is punctuation error, right? Here, right, it's an ending punctuation error, so they would put an X there. So what I would suggest you do now, right, is pause the video here, take about 10 minutes or so, and go through and replicate what I just showed you in the previous slide, right? Put in your X's where they're supposed to go and tally up all your different types of errors. If you're unsure of what a note means or where to place an X, if you're doing this independently, like I said, if it's a criterion error and you don't know which one it syncs up with, just put it somewhere in the blank space, and we can talk about that later when we have time to speak one-on-one. You can come during office hours. But in general, anything that doesn't say criterion A, B, or C is a criterion D error usually, right? So it probably belongs to one of these. If you just don't know, just kind of put it in a blank space. And then down at the bottom, there's a formatting errors. If there was something wrong with your header or the title mistakes, a works cited problem, or an in-text citation problem, etc. So pause the video here and do that before resuming. Okay, so now that you've finished that, let's move on to the next step. The first thing that you are going to do is establish your top 3 weaknesses that you want to work on and record them, right? So when you look back at that sheet that you just filled out with the X's, you want to look at the error types that had the most X's, right? And those should be your top 3 priorities, right? So for example, one of the errors that I'm focusing on, or I want to focus on in my sample here, right, is capitalization issues. And then in parentheses, I'm going to write down my goal, right? I'm going to write down specifics about what the error is. So I capitalize things I don't need to, and I don't capitalize some things that I should, right? So just kind of writing the error type and then what the issue seems to be there. You have 3 spots to do that, right? So there's 3 of these kind of rows that are open to you for filling that in. All you're doing is filling in that first box in each of those 3 rows. So for example, I might look back at my tally sheet and I might see that I have subject-verb agreement error. I would fill that in here. In the box underneath where it says area of writing that needs improvement, right, I would write the next one. Maybe it was capitalization. And then in the final box, I would put in whatever that 3rd grammatical error was. It could be run-on sentences, or it could be word choice, whatever the case may be. So go ahead and pause the video here and fill in those 3 areas now. Okay. Once you've done that, the next thing you're going to do is record the data from that first assignment, right? If you look at my sample, right, I made 4 capitalization errors in my high-level essay for A Doll's House. You want to write something similar, right, in your boxes where it says data from one assignment. It's important to write down the number of errors that you had, so use those tally boxes to count them, and then also what text your essay was about. That way we can kind of track from one entry to the next, because we're going to come back to this document after every time you write a higher level essay. Okay, so once you've done that, and you should again have 3 of those filled in, 1 for each of the things you're working on. In class, what we did was we had people kind of share out what they were doing and then strategies for helping you avoid some of those errors. Instead, we're just going to move on to the next part. When it comes to identifying useful strategies, you may already know some off the top of your head, or from our presentations last week, there may have been some that were mentioned that you can kind of fill in. I do want to take the time to talk about one type of error that a lot of people have a tendency to struggle with, and that is awkward phrasing. Okay, so with awkward phrasing, right, what the error looks like. right? First explanation. This is when your writing is unclear or difficult to understand because it doesn't follow the standard pattern that we use when we speak and when we write. So 2 examples. One student wrote this sentence in purple. They knew he committed those acts based on the sole reason that they knew he would do those things. Even trying to read that sounds awkward to me, right? Even more convoluted is this one down here. Maya Angelou helps readers better understand new things about how different people of different races or ethnicities view what life really is and the differences in their upbringings, right? It's kind of all over the place. I mean, this one in particular is just really long, so it's awkward to listen to it, and I kind of get lost while I'm trying to read it, okay? So this is what these types of errors look like. And this is why reading your work aloud to yourself doesn't actually help you fix it. If you take a minute and look at the stuff that's in this red box, you're probably not going to have any trouble reading it. Take a minute now to do that. Okay, so this Cambridge University study kind of points out to us exactly like what the problem is when it comes to editing our own paper, right? And this is especially true when it comes to awkward phrasing, right? Your brain won't recognize it as awkward because your brain is auto-correcting for you, right? So you need to get someone or something else to look at your paper for you in order to get that real help that you might need. So the ways to fix it, right? Take a short break from your writing and listen to it read out loud. Right, the easiest way is to use the Chrome add-on Google Read and Write. You can listen to your writings and press pause if you hear something that doesn't sound right, and then rework it, and then you resume when you're ready. So, for example, like using those 2 flawed sentences from before, right? They knew he was the type of person who would commit those acts, so they knew he did, right? Maya Angelou helps readers better understand how people of different races view life based on their upbringing, right? This second one is much clearer, right? They knew he was the type of person who would commit those acts, so they knew he did, right? These are much clearer than those original versions that we saw in the previous slide. So if you don't know how to get the extension or you don't have it already, right, you go to Google search, type in Read and Write, and then when it comes up, select the first one, usually at the top that says Read and Write for Google Chrome from the Chrome web store. Then you're going to want to click the Add to Chrome button if you don't already have it. Some of you may have it. If you click on it and it doesn't seem to be working, uninstall it and go through these steps and just add it again and it will work. I don't know why it does that, but it helps. Whenever you're working in a document, right, in order to start it, you have to open the app. So you click on the little puzzle piece add-on, and then the menu will show up. If it shows up minimized, you have to click on the puzzle piece to see your options for playing, stopping, pausing it, etc. Right? You use the buttons to play it like you would on something on your phone or a device, and then you can change the voice, right, from male or female or with an accent or not with an accent, as well as the speed of the playback if you want to read faster or slower by clicking on the options. If you only want it to read one part of your essay, not the whole thing, just highlight the part you want it to focus on and then hit play. It'll skip over the other things and go right to what you just highlighted or selected. So in addition to just what I went over for awkward phrases, right, all of the materials that are in the slideshow presentations in the other part of this week's work also have corrections, right? So every single one of these bullet points goes through that same kind of routine or setup, right? It shows you what the error looks like. It tells you how to fix it, right? And then you can use that for any of the things that are maybe unclear. Like if you're having trouble figuring out how to fix subject-verb agreement errors, look at the slides that are dedicated to that, right? And all of these bullet points map out what is contained in each slide station presentation. All right. So at this time, you're going to need to pause the video, right, and fill in at least one strategy for each of the three writing goals that you have, right? What are you going to do to try and avoid those three error types? And the strategies might not necessarily be the same for each error type. So take your time and think about it before you kind of write something down. Go ahead and pause the video here and hit resume when you're ready. Okay. So, and one thing to mention, right? Here where it says data from a second assignment, right? Have you made progress? You're leaving that blank because you only have one assignment done right now, okay? Moving on, the next thing that we're going to do is establish a reasonable goal and a reasonable time frame for each of the error types that you're working on. If you look at my sample, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I neglected to talk about this part. For the strategy, right? My sample, I said, I will write a reminder at the top of my essay telling me to double check people's names and titles for caps. That's one of those things that if you put a note in the header of your document, right, no matter where you are in the document, the little bubble notification about the error will follow you, right? So it's one way you can kind of ensure that you can't forget, because that bubble will continue to move around as you type and go through the document. So a reasonable time frame, right? It's not a reasonable expectation that the next time you write an essay, every single one of these errors is going to be gone, right? So come up with a decent number or way of establishing some kind of progress. If I made 4 of these errors the first time, maybe my goal might be to only have 1 of those types of errors in my next essay, right? And then after that, by the time I get to my 3rd essay, I'll hopefully get to the point where I can eliminate every single one, right? Where the errors are completely gone. Take the next minute or two, pause the video, take the next minute or two and establish your own reasonable goals and how long you think it'll take. And it could be, number of assignments for you to reach that goal, or, number of days, number of weeks, or after so many, office hour sessions, etc. Go ahead and pause the video and fill those in now. Okay. The last thing that I'm going to ask you to fill in is the Mr. Krause's role section. This is where I'd like you to tell me how I can best help you with these types of errors. So for example, in my sample one here, I said, provide me with feedback, offer office hours, provide resources. If there's other things that you can think of that I haven't done already that you would like, maybe you want to do worksheets, or nobody wants to do worksheets, but if you want like a quick exercise at the beginning of class every once in a while, or something along those lines, anything that you can think of that would help you get rid of these error types, I want you to go ahead and put that in the Mr. Krause's role spot. And again, make sure that you're matching it up to the specific error type, because not everything will need the same fix. Right? Not everything will require the same things from me. So go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Okay. So lastly, right, again, you have 2 boxes that are left blank because those are for when you look at your second and your third higher level essay, and we'll kind of fill in the data and see if you are making progress. So at this point, you should have a sheet that looks like this, right? Where the green check marks are where you've written in information for all of those boxes, right? And again, the data from the second assignments, you leave blank, and the data from the third assignments, you leave blank as well. All right. And this was the last round for the people who were participating in the class. So you don't have to worry about this. Thank you for watching this video. Once you've finished all that material, please make sure that you turn that in and then proceed to work on your writing station materials homework as well. Both of those assignments are due by before 3 p.m. on Saturday. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in class soon.